Zhang Peichen, a cultural relic restorer from the Shanghai Museum, was restoring a special artifact. In the excavation of pit number 8 at Sanxing Dui site, more than 70 bronze human heads were unearthed. But only this bronze statue with a gold mask and hairpins had a complete gold mask attached.
Why were these originally golden bronze heads adorned with a gold mask of the same color? What kind of world were they trying to create?
The world is transient, and life is like a dream. The autumn wind blew through the fields of Sanxing Dui, leaving a blanket of gold. The Sanxing Dui people both harvested and reminisced in autumn. What is eternity for everything in the world? Since ancient times, who can convey the way? The Sanxing Dui people had many questions and uncertainties. They offered their most precious gold and jade, seeking answers from heaven. A group of young archaeologists at the Sanxing Dui Museum arrived as scheduled. Nearly a year has passed since the overall extraction and relocation of pit number 5. Today they will start a significant project of laboratory archaeology for pit number 5.
Take photos first. Then we can choose one.
This might be the treasure pit with the highest gold value in the world. The dazzling golden light could hardly conceal the former glory of a kingdom, even if it has been buried for more than 3,000 years. There are perforated gold foil pieces, newly emerged axe-shaped gold artifacts, and intricately carved ivory miniatures. During the initial excavation, a half-golden mask that shocked the world and exquisitely crafted bird-shaped gold foil were unearthed from here. Due to the complex burial conditions and severe fragmentation of the cultural relics, numerous mysteries shrouded pit number 5 during the early excavation stages. Over a year ago, at the excavation site, archaeologists discovered a large number of scattered circular gold foil pieces near the pit wall, evenly spaced in a straight line. These gold foil pieces all had perforations at the center and extended forward in a grid pattern. In the middle of pit number 5, ivory fragments are carved with beautiful patterns, which have clear lines and various designs, showcasing the mature microcarving technique of the ancient Shu people. Apart from the common cloud and thunder and rolling cloud patterns, some strange patterns appeared for the first time in the excavation of the Sanxing Dui site.
We found some relatively large strip-shaped items that were suspected to be ivory artifacts. But Sanxing Dui's unique styles, such as the phoenix patterns, began to appear on the ivory artifacts as well.
Based on these phenomena, experts speculated that the gold foil pieces and other jade ornaments might have originally adorned a luxurious garment. The ivory fragments may have come from multiple artifacts that were already broken before being buried.
Generally speaking, we think pit number 5 is likely related to a special person, scene, or ceremony.
If we follow this speculation, these exquisite and luxurious ornaments seem to be some kind of status symbol. So, could pit number 5 have buried the attire of the then Shu king or high priest? What kind of religious and divine authority system did the Sanxing Dui people create, using valuable gold, jade, and bronze? And what kind of golden age did Sanxing Dui usher in more than 3,000 years ago?
I need to flatten it out. That will cause too much trouble. It's too much force. I don't want to press the edge anymore. It's folded on this side. Our ancestors from 3,000 years ago did it this way. What kind of tweezers did they use? Where did they get the tweezers?
Exactly.
At the Sanxing Dui Excavation and Research Base in Guanghan. The magic of Sanxing Dui is gradually unfolding. Ma Yenru, an expert on gold artifacts, is conducting post-processing and data collection. On this exquisite bird-shaped gold foil.
3 points for each part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the center. 6, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Measure the thickness of the 10 points to see if it was processed uniformly and evenly. It's a large gold foil, so it must have been cut off from a larger piece. It has no joints at all, indicating it came from a large piece of gold foil. This gold foil must be evenly processed from top to bottom to ensure this ornament is uniform.
The test results on 10 points of the bird-shaped gold foil show that its average thickness is 0.18 millimeters, equivalent to the thickness of a sheet of paper.
It was quite difficult for people at that time to process such a large gold foil so evenly. It shows that the goldsmiths at that time had mastered the techniques of rolling or pressing gold sheets quite skillfully. In today's gold and silver production, we use machines to produce foils. If it was produced by pressing, did they have such advanced machinery at that time?
Archaeological findings revealed that China's early gold artifacts appeared during the Bronze Age, mainly in the Central Plains and northern regions, primarily as small burial items. However, the gold artifacts unearthed from Sanxing Dui have reached an unparalleled height in the same period, in terms of quantity, shape, and craftsmanship. This has puzzled the archaeological experts.
So far, we haven't found any metal tools. After excavating the buried artifacts from Sanxing Dui, and we haven't discovered any other tools used for gold processing, besides metal tools.
By the Huangpu River, Cai Qian, a young man from Shanghai who is addicted to Sanxing Dui culture, is taking on the challenge of replicating the gold scepter after successfully replicating the gold mask. In 1986, the gold scepter was unearthed from sacrificial pit number 1. It is 143 centimeters long, with a diameter of 2.3 centimeters, and weighs about 463 grams. One end of the scepter is engraved with complex patterns composed of arrows, birds, fish, and human figures. Most scholars believe that the scepter is the king's stuff in Sanxing Dui's Caesaropapism, symbolizing royal and divine power.
At first, I was very confident because I successfully replicated the gold mask. The difference with the scepter is that it has some patterns. After doing some research, I thought they were engraved on it. So I started practicing on copper plates.
After careful preparation, Cai Qian began replicating the gold scepter. Taking a 600-gram gold bar with 99.9% purity, he softened it at high temperature and hammered it into a gold rod, then flattened it into a gold strip of suitable width. When doing the last step above, Cai Qian found that the changes exceeded his expectations. Where did the problem lie?
It was a matter of gold content. The golden artifacts unearthed from Sanxing Dui have a gold content of about 85%, with the remaining 15% consisting of silver and other metals.
To make a perfect replica, Cai Qian added 14% silver and tried again. After another round of hammering, Cai Qian finally made a gold strip consistent with the data of the scepter. He then polished it with ground fine sand. The soft fine sand wiped over the dull gold, instantly revealing an enticing brightness. The engraving technique that he had painstakingly learned would also come in handy. However, an accidental discovery made Cai Qian realize he had underestimated the complexity of it.
One day when I was looking at the photos, I suddenly realized that the engraved patterns were not one line. There were two extremely parallel lines on a very fine line.
At the Sanxing Dui Museum, Cai Qian closely observed the patterns on the gold scepter. They were not just single flat lines, but two lines engraved in less than 1 square millimeter. With extremely skillful and neat lines, the two lines are parallel to each other, presenting a raised three-dimensional effect, looking almost like a single line to the naked eye.
After seeing the two parallel lines, I felt a bit of fear and despair. It was like a climber facing an insurmountable mountain. I thought for a long time and tried every single method that I could think of. Then I thought I might have to give up.
When night falls, the lights are on. In the most dazzling city in the Orient, the young man who once came so close to his dream, finally felt lonely and insignificant. Did the craftsmen in Sanxing Dui more than 3,000 years ago also experience repeated failures, starting over again and again, just to protect their unwavering faith?
That's too strange.
Yeah, incredible.
Oh, I see.
Where?
A little bit to the side.
Over 2,000 kilometers away in Guanghan, Sichuan, stuff suddenly gathered for a surprise. As they cleared the excess soil from the cavity of the bird-footed bronze lei, they extracted an oval jade piece shaped like a tongue.
What's this? Is it a jade spear? The blade is quite sharp.
This jade artifact immediately attracted the attention of Professor Deng Song, a jade expert.
Professor Deng, for something like this, since it has blade all around, so I should grip it with my fingers, just like you talked about just now, instead of holding it with my palm.
The blade may not necessarily be for cutting. The blade might have been used for pressing or smoothing.
This seemingly inconspicuous oval jade piece is thick in the center and thin around the edges. Archaeologists observed it using deep focus, finding the edges extremely sharp, with the thinnest part only 30 to 40 microns, and showing signs of grinding in use.
Gently. Look.
What do you think, Zhou? This tool might not just be for polishing or smoothing. It could also be used for shaping because it's smooth and delicate enough.
At the same time, Ma Yanru's team, responsible for gold artifact research, also took notice of these jade artifacts.
We found many jade artifacts. We can only speculate now and can't draw conclusions if they were suitable for such processing.
Among the jade artifacts unearthed from Sanxing Dui,
There's a special type we call jade grindstones. In some jade processing workshops, we can find some tools with similar functions and shapes. So we think they might be some kind of processing tool.
As long as it's hard enough and your technique is good, it can be achieved.
Processing tools of different materials might be used on gold artifacts. However, did gold and jade accompany each other in Sanxing Dui over 3,000 years ago? At the top of the jade chisels unearthed from pit number 7 and the jade knives from pit number 6, archaeologists also found signs of use.
As tools, we are not clear about what objects they should apply on and what scenarios they should be in. So from this perspective, if we study the functions of these jade artifacts, we will conduct some controlled experiments and stimulations. Just as I mentioned earlier, finding tools for gold artifacts, the two are closely related.
One is finding tools used for making gold artifacts, and the other is finding the usage scenarios of these tool-like jade artifacts. Did the ancient Shu people 3,000 years ago create such a wonderful relationship between gold and jade? As Ma Yanru and Deng Song continue their research, will they be able to solve these mysteries? After consideration, Cai Qian in Shanghai made a carving knife out of cow bones. After repeated attempts, he finally created the patterns most similar to those on the gold scepter of Sanxing Dui.
I tried many methods, and finally found the proper way to engrave the patterns. I'm not sure if they did use cow bones. They might use jade, or tools of other materials. Personally, I'm more certain about the carving method.
In this round of excavations at Sanxing Dui site, 7 gold masks were unearthed, and the 2 from pits number 3 and number 5 are the most typical. Archaeologists found that the gold mask from pit number 5 bore a significant resemblance to the large gold mask of Jinsha.
Through scientific analysis of their compositions, both masks are essentially similar. This suggests a close kinship between the two masks, likely representing the ruling class or the upper echelon of the ruling group.
The gold masks unearthed at Sanxing Dui all exhibit a consistent style. From the marks on the back of the masks, it is observed that the edges have folding marks. After careful observation and analysis, Ma Yanru and her team believe that these masks were likely attached to bronze statues or bronze masks. However, if the gold masks were attached to bronze heads, why did the Sanxing Dui people separate them from the bronze statues and crumple them when burying them in the pit?
It's possible that the gold masks fell off from the bronze heads or bronze masks, as a deliberate act by the people of that time. It could also have been caused by the damage to the entire batch of sacrificial remains, resulting in the gold masks falling off during the period of destruction.
What exactly happened when the Sanxing Dui people buried these artifacts? What kind of destruction led them to such determination? Perhaps their questions to heaven remained unanswered. But can we find the answers 3,000 years later?
The entire head, buried in the middle layer of pit number 8, was in very poor condition. It was wrapped in layers of other bronze artifacts, ivory, soil, other debris, and rust. The compression caused severe corrosion on the surface of the head, particularly around the neck, with many penetrating cracks. When extracted, the head was wrapped in gauze layers.
Restoring the bronze statue with a gold mask and hairpins was harder than expected.
The most challenging part was to separate a very hard object from the soft gold, while preserving the even softer paint on the gold surface. This was the biggest difficulty in the restoration. We used some special tools from fossil cleaning for the restoration of bronze artifacts, so we could separate the hard bronze from the soft gold.
In addition, reshaping the gold mask is also a challenging task. The ears and strip accessories on both sides of the mask were severely deformed. The ears had been folded and compressed to 1/8 of their original size. With decades of relic restoration experience, Zhang Peichen successfully cleaned the attachments using a mix of tools with different hardness. The deformed ears were fully unfolded and restored, and the paint on the ears was preserved. The pride of 3,000 years ago was successfully revived in the hands of the restorers.
Welcome everyone to the soft opening of the Bronze Exhibition Hall and the opening of Stars Over China at the Shanghai Museum East.
In February 2024, the newly completed Shanghai Museum East officially opened. Stars Over China, the ancient Shu civilization of Sanxing Dui and Jinsha, premiered in Shanghai. As the unveiling cultural relic, the bronze statue with a gold mask and hairpins was placed in the most prominent position in the hall. Reuniting with the bronze statue, Zhang Peichen felt like meeting an old friend. When they looked at each other, they felt a familiar connection.
I'm very fortunate that my work is on display at the Shanghai Museum East.
At the museum night that evening, Sai Qian appeared as a guest. His replicas of the gold mask and the gold scepter were also displayed in the main exhibition hall. His passion for Sanxing Dui brought his life more valuable explorations. At the same time, his explorations inspired more young people to pursue the long-standing cultural roots of Chinese civilization. After the Golden Autumn and the Shining Golden Age, the proud Sanxing Dui people perhaps understood that between eternity and each other, they could only choose the present moment, even if the inevitable winter was approaching. However, what they did not know was that their true home was the everlasting China in history. The Sanxing Dui people first cast the images of gods in bronze. Ultimately, how would they forge the final legend of a kingdom?